Hey friends, thanks for joining us. This is Sermon Sessions. We're looking at this previous sermon from last week on rebuilding purpose. And we're specifically looking at a very famous passage, which you might be familiar with. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with this passage, Jeremiah 29:11. If you've never heard this passage before, I'm shocked, actually. You probably have. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to
prosper you.
Not to harm you.
Not to harm you.
To give you
hope.
And a future.
All right, good, everybody.
Wow.
You all passed. Gold stars for everybody. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, hey, what has been your experience with that passage, Jeremiah 29:11? Go ahead. Not everybody at the same time.
That it's about me as an individual.
Ah.
That's a good one.
People give it to you and say, I have this word for you from Jeremiah 29. It's about you, John. And that has felt like a lot of pressure. Like, really? I know the intent behind it was always to make me feel special, but it put a lot of responsibility on the individual. And in a culture that is steeped in individualism, that's American culture, it's always centered on the individual, and we have no sense of the collective. This wasn't written to an individual.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's similar to that. Mine would also come in an individual kind of way in the midst of like a disappointment, like something didn't work out, right? Like something didn't work out for you. You didn't get that, audition or that job or something happened, and you get the text. It's like for the, and it's, like for me to prosper, to hope for me. Yeah. And like things are going to work out for me. Yeah. So I just want to say, yes, that is primarily the avenue in which I heard this used a lot. And I did see it. It was what is it called when you have your grandma's house hanging in the bathroom?
Needle point on a pillow.
Hanging in the bathroom. Hanging in the bathroom.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Which is, just such a great reminder when you're like washing your hands. You're like,
while you're washing your hands. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think I remember, not like specifically the day and hour, but I remember like the era when I realized the context to that verse and was like, oh, wow, like that's heavy. Like, I didn't read because like we always just take it out of the cherry pick of like, this is for me right now for this circumstance. But then you like read the chapters before and the chapters after, and you realize it's a people in exile, a promise that's going to be delayed for a while. Sorry, there is purpose in the waiting, but like it isn't going to be fulfilled in one generation even. Yeah. And I think that was like, oh, wow, this is saying something bigger. There's like this, like the allowances and the call on heaven for this promise is much bigger than this current circumstance.
Well, that's a hard thing to swallow. If you're looking to God saying, God, we're in exile and life is not good, and where are you going to, how are you going to show up, right? And then to have someone, it'd be nice to have a prophet come to you and say, don't worry, it's going to be okay. It's just around the corner. It's going to be a few short years. And then that passage is like 70 years from now. You're like, wait, sorry, how many years? 70 years? I'm not even going to be around. Don't worry, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. It's to prosper you, not to harm you. And you're like, but the you is y'all. I know the plans I have for y'all. And so it's a good thing for the community, but it doesn't necessarily mean that your life is going to work out. And so that idea of living in exile, I don't know what your experience has been with that as a Christian, how long you've been in the church. You've seen bumper stickers, you've seen shirts likely that say not of this world, and so when you hear that, exile or not of this world, how have you been discipled in that way? What does that mean when you read not of this world? What's your instinct? What have you been discipled with regard to that idea?
Yeah, I think all of a sudden it creates this kind of almost Gnostic view of the world where like spirituality and my present circumstances in life are separate. And this one somehow, spirituality specifically, is somehow should be the more focus of my life, right? Which is like, we obviously have a connection with the Lord, but when we divide those two, that somehow my present circumstance, my present life is not connected to my spirituality in a very adjacent way and also perpendicular way sometimes. I've just found it to be very like just hyper spiritualization happens a lot for me. That's my response.
Good to piggyback on that. Yeah. So I feel like I grew up in an era where salvation and evangelism was really that primary thing, speaking to that, of like what's happening when you die. Like we got to make sure you're locked and loaded, like you're good with Jesus, you're going to heaven, but the here and now, doesn't matter so much, right? Like we're in this world, we're not of it. Like you just got to hear momentarily, but what really matters is that you're saved. When you die, you're going to heaven. And then we love this, Mike's favorite word in the Greek is sozo for salvation, right? And it's not just life after death, but life here and now, like a living presently. So I feel like that I've seen that separation in terms of being exiles. Like we just think we're separated. This doesn't matter. The tangible, we're not embodied in our practices of faith, but like really we're called to live it out in those really practical ways. So salvation here on this earth in this time now and later.
Yeah. Anything more you want to add, John, to that?
Yeah. I think you guys know my dad passed a couple weeks ago and we did his burial yesterday. And he would always say so often, I'm not absolutely certain what happens after you die because I haven't been there. I'm like, right. I have faith and I have trust that I'm going to be with Jesus, whatever that looks like. But in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy heaven here on earth. And that did something for me growing up of my dad's way of looking at reality of like, I don't really know, but in the meantime, I'm going to love what's in front of me, which goes to not of this world. I'm like, yeah, I understand it conceptually, but I am here.
Yeah, right.
I'm right here.
Right.
And that means there are people in front of me that I get to love and see and be in relationship with. Yeah. There's an earth that I get to play with and enjoy immensely. There's beauty all around me. I don't want to miss any of it. So he would oftentimes say, I'm just rehearsing for whatever's next so that when I get there, I'll know how to behave. Right? I'll know how to act because I've been doing it the whole time.
That's right. That's right.
Here. And I think the tendency is to create a separateness mentality that someday life will be beautiful. Someday it'll be full. But what about this life? Why can't we have it now? Why can't we move towards fullness, connection, beauty? Everything that I see in the scripture, it's an invitation into more of, even in exile, I don't know what's coming. I don't know, but I'm going to enjoy what is.
Right. And
that feels good.
I think too, like off that, like, I just keep hearing the word like rootedness. When you choose, even in that was kind of what Drew talked about a little bit in the sermon, the opening of just God's actually sending a word like plant. Like get married, have kids, like you're going to be here for a while, but there was actually prophets that were false prophets that were coming in. This is going to pass. Like the Lord's going to deliver you in a few months. And then, and you kind of realize like the mindset of like a renter or an owner. Right? You act very differently in those circumstances. And I've seen a lot in Christianity and a lot of even faith spheres where it's like, well, my city doesn't matter. As long as I'm preaching the gospel in the four walls and I'm going to church and I'm praying 10 hours a day. And I mean, none of those things are bad by themselves. But I think when the attitude is nothing outside matters, my relationships at work don't matter. The way that I honor my boss doesn't matter. I mean, that is like where we start to see that apathism, that like apathy that comes in. And really, I think it shortens our connection to life and to our presence and even the witness that we are. I find so many times that actually like, if we're being real and honest and just shooting it straight, like as a church, big C, we're apologizing for our own dysfunction, not persecution most of the time. And I would say in America, like we're really actually
say it again,
like,
sister, say
we're
it
not
again.
Nice people. Like, we don't work through our stuff. We don't approach people with healthy, godly ways of communicating because the back of our mind is like, we don't belong here. We're not of this world. So therefore I'm not going to dabble with this really complicated conversation with a coworker who doesn't know Jesus because it doesn't really matter. They're not saved. Yeah. And I don't know, I've seen that apathy and I think that it really restrains us from looking like Christ in our city.
Well, you named something really important. So as a renter, I've always been a renter. Yeah. And that really resonated with me because if I see my city as a place that I'm just a renter, I'm just a tenant, I'm not investing, like I'm not going to make this place better. I don't have any equity in it, right? And that's exactly what God's saying is the opposite of what's true. No, invest in the city that you're planted in the place that you're in exile. Yeah, it might not be yours, but it's God's. And I want you to invest in it because as you invest, you're going to find that word we like have to always give multiple definitions of now because it can be a trigger word for some people as welfare, but the well-being of the city, the shalom of the city opportunity, seek it. What a great opportunity for us in Los Angeles now, today, in our current day, to say, I've heard this from Christians. I've been raised in the church my whole life. So Christians often, will say, well, that's not the government's responsibility. That should be the Christians are the ones that do it. And now we have an opportunity, right, where the government's not doing certain things to be able to provide certain essentials for people. And it's like, well, okay, then let's step up. Like, what a great opportunity. I'm one who says both and. I'm like, let's keep giving towards the well-being of the community. Yes, and it. And yet, at the same time, if one's not there, the church should always be in the equation. Always be providing.
Did you hear about this? It's going on right now on social media. This woman is calling various churches. You probably have heard about this. She's asking for, what is it? She's asking for, what's the word I'm looking for? For her, it's a specific thing she's asking for. See, this is why I was like, you guys, I need more coffee for this conversation. She's asking for, it's not breast milk, but formula. Thank you, brain, for coming in there. There it is. She's calling churches, all kinds, across all denominations. Right. And the amount of rejections she's gotten, people have like 85% or something. She's keeping a track. She's listed them of who said yes and who said no. And it's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see that, right? And I know we have checks on things and we don't want to be taken advantage of as the church and stuff, but like how heartbreaking it is to see that. And I'm like, oh gosh, would our church say no? Right. And here's the cool thing. I actually don't think we would say no. I think we'd be like, absolutely, Cosme and the Deacons would be on it. But it makes you think, like, when that need happens, that practical phone call of somebody saying, I need help and I'm calling a church, churches are saying like, no. To this. And I mean, and I think sometimes these issues can seem so big and so massive, and so we're paralyzed by the need, so we just kind of freeze. But I think it's Henry Nouwen, and it talks about being faithful to the small tasks can meet the deepest like illness of our time, right? To not be so overwhelmed with the big, to just start small with the phone call of somebody who needs the help, with the friend who needs a meal brought to her, with, like those little things, and being faithful to them on a daily basis in our proximity is seeking the welfare of our city. It's interesting that our response in this day and age is not unique to 2025 Los Angeles. Like, this is what humanity does. And so, John, you have 3 words. I want to give you a layup here, is that there's 3 words that you can... Formula. You did it! Team effort. Where were you 2 minutes ago, man? No, but there's the 3 words that you have that we as humanity have been doing, that we have the tendency of doing, as the Israelites were also tempted to do. What were the things that we do when it comes to, if we're in exile, if we find ourselves in an area where we might not identify as our own, how would we respond oftentimes?
I think the 3 words are assimilate, isolate, participate.
Isolate and participate.
Good AIP.
That's good.
Like a good beer, an AIP.
If you like hops.
If you like hops.
If you're a hop person, are you?
The assimilation piece around, you just become like the culture. You kind of go with the flow, and what is, and you find yourself losing your unique identity as a Christ-following community. How does a Jesus community show up in this space? And the second one is to isolate, and that one's very attractive, and I think that comes back to the not of this world piece. So we isolate, we pull away, we spiritual bypass, I call it, the sense of, well, I'm just going to go and pray and be with like-minded people who are like me, think the way I do. So we isolate with people because it's very safe. I like to be in isolation because it's safe and certain, and you don't have to engage with the chaos of what's around you. And then the third invitational piece is to participate as a representative of Jesus. Like, how do I show up in this? So we planted a church back in 2002 in the South Bay of Los Angeles, my wife and I, and started to create a community of people. And we didn't know what we were doing. So we decided, well, we don't know what we're doing. So we used this Jeremiah 29 concept as a frame to look through. And we went in and said, let's pray for the peace of the city. How often do we pray for the cities that we're in? So every Tuesday night, we would assemble 2 by 2 and go out and walk every street of the city that God placed us in. And it gave us a heart for the city. We thought, well, we just don't know what to do, so we'll pray. Turns out that prayer turned us into action, turned us into love, and we started to fall in love with our city. and started to get involved in the government and started getting involved with local government and schools and started to know school teachers' names and police officers and firefighters, everybody that makes our city a safe space. We started developing relationships. And so instead of assimilating in and just being like, well, what's going on in the city, or isolating and just doing our little church, we fully participated. And prayer led us into falling in love with our city. And so everywhere we went, even to this day, when we walk through that city, I'm like, I remember when we walked by here and we prayed over this home and we prayed for this family. And it wasn't about getting people into our church. As a church planner, you would think that would be the goal, but it's like, no, we just want to fall in love with our city. And we planted scripture in the ground. We just thought, well, we'll do that. And like, I don't know what that did, but it gave us a heart for our city, which was a really beautiful invitation. And I think of now I live in El Segundo, and it taught me I'm praying for El Segundo. I'm praying for the well-being of my city, because that's where God has placed us. Beautiful. And getting to know my neighbors and getting to know city officials, because we live there. And we're renters too. I feel your pain. We're just renters. So.
But I think too, the difference between a renter and a landowner. I was thinking a landowner. It sounds like so feudal system.
Landowner.
Well, we're out there for land.
I don't know what I'm talking about. The language is clearly escaping us today. But here we are. But what I was just like thinking was, like, do I leave places better than I found it?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that is like the heart behind, wherever I'm called, Lord, whether it's, in education or even just showing up to my job that I hate going to, like, do I try to meet the felt needs of people around me, and do I love well, and do I lean into the Lord of like, what are you doing and how can I partner with you? And I just love like the story of Daniel, because I think we don't really understand him in a lot of ways because it's so divorced from time. We just don't understand the historical context, but it's like he's taken as like a young 13-year-old boy, he's becomes a eunuch, which his family was slaughtered. I mean, the amount of grief and loss this man had was extraordinary, in terms of every way possible. And then he's like thrown into this astrologer school, and he's learning how to do like the arts of the kingdom, and he's gifted. The Holy Spirit's on him, and he's got power. But like through the entire process, he just has a love for these wicked kings that just like blows my mind, And I'm not saying we excuse like people. That's a different conversation. But like, I remember like that passage where like he had such a friendship with Nebuchadnezzar, who like we have to remind ourselves had slaughtered his family and his people and his own body, right? And like the king sharing this dream that he's had that he's about to go into a 7-year period of mental health-ish crisis. And the first thing out of Daniel's mouth is like, I wish this would happen to your enemies. Like he just had such a respect and a reverence of like, I see, like, I'm here, this isn't great, but what can I do to like support this person? And I think it's just like, he really didn't have the entitlement. And I think what we struggle with, especially with what's happening, and especially when you're in a season of exile, when like the good old days are over, right? And all of a sudden you remember the good old days, but then the Lord's like, actually the season's changed, and now things aren't comfortable. Things aren't working the way they used to work. And it's like, are we invited to bring goodness and change and peace and root down and go, okay, how can I be part of this? And I don't know, I just see, and then you see Nebuchadnezzar become one of the most God-fearing kings. I mean, he was evil. He was evil before he met Jesus and through Daniel. And then he becomes like a God-fearing, praising the Lord, turns the whole kingdom around. And I love that, but it was a witness of Daniel. He wasn't a renter in the king's court.
Yeah. Well, and it speaks to just not giving up on people either. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So saying like, I'm going to stick it out and see the good and hopefully be part of bringing out the good. Totally. Right. Like not thinking somebody is beyond help or change. Yeah. And I think that is that's a really big part of this witness, and in terms of being rooted and planted, because you stay, right? You don't just book it or leave if somebody messes up. It's like you step in. Totally. And that's not easy to do. The
interesting too is like, he did assimilate in one. I mean, he stepped into the astrology school and just like adopted their whole way of viewing the world, obviously. But he also didn't assimilate, right? He had boundaries. He's still doing his prayer. He's still showing up to like anytime it trumped what God said, is his way, or he felt like God was leading him. It's like he just knew who was the higher authority over Nebuchadnezzar. But there was just like this tension he lived in that I think is just really rare. And I think that we should search ourselves and ask the Lord, like, am I really seeking the good of where you've put me? And I think if we can shift our perspective, we will see, like, it's like what I love the promise too is like the Lord's asking us to plant vineyards and to like think generationally and to have cities and to have and rebuild things even in the midst of exile. And I think that's the hope.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I can't. And when you talk about Daniel, I can't help but think of the Daniel fast. Sorry, I've just. Have you ever heard of that before? Where he's like,
Daniel fast.
We're going back to all of like the original OG, like
yeah, a little bit. I think about this. So now let's bring it home into our city and make it tangible in our lives, that we might be able to help our listeners make it tangible as well. As we think about our own lives, where God has planted us. Sure, we're a Bel Air Church, but like in Los Angeles. Let's think outside of churchdom, okay? Outside of Christendom. Where has God planted us into community that we might be able to prioritize the well-being, it says. So seek the welfare of the city, like make it a priority. So what in our individual lives that we might be able to say, you know what, I'm going to double down. I'm going to start investing time, talent, energy, treasure, so that place, that person, that group, I'll start. Okay, so I'm just kind of giving you guys a prime. So I'm a AYSO assistant soccer coach, and I'm biased. It's for my son, so he's 8 years old. He's playing soccer. I'm invested in his well-being too, and yet it's not just for his well-being. If I invest in the well-being of the team, in that well-being, we find our well-being as well. And so I'm really committed as an adult who wants to demonstrate love, wants to be a compassionate adult to other kids. How can I really invest in the team to where those kids thrive, those families thrive, they have the best experience? I can't say I'm doing it perfectly. Rebecca knows. She's seen me at my worst at times. But that's a place
You're a
where
good coach, good coach.
God's planted me in that spot. And so I'm choosing to seek the well-being of that team, because in its well-being, I'll find my well-being. How about you?
It's good.
I think my wife and I felt like we've been in exile the last 10 years. So we've been away from LA. And so it's been difficult. It's been a difficult 10 years. But we're back in LA, and we're in El Segundo, which is close to where we planted our church community. And that church is still there, but that's a lot of relationship. And now we're back in relationship with a lot of these people who have scattered. Some of them have stayed, but a lot of them have scattered, and they've had kids. And we're finding that something that God put in our hearts 20 years ago, a dream, and it came to fruition. And then we left it and went off and got formed and shaped into the likeness of Jesus through a lot of pain and heartache. Now we're back and we're giving in a different way, and we're blessing our community in a different way. And we're not really part of the church that functions on a Sunday, but we're taking care of their kids. And we were at a memorial this last Sunday, another memorial, and a lot of our friends were there. And it was just an interesting dynamic to see how God said, I know the plans I have for you, all of you, and to prosper you, not to harm you, but to seek your welfare as a community. It just brings that Jeremiah 29 to a different space of, I saw this whole thing happen, and now you get to be a blessing to people and take care of their kids and help a grieving widow. Even outside of Bel Air, I'm learning to love this community, but there's a community of people in the South Bay where we're at that we get to serve. And so it feels like a real blessing.
So I'm hearing you babysit. Good to know.
Yeah, good.
We do. We're really good too, because we want to be
you
grandparents.
You have a great memory. You remembered bacon with Benny.
I love
and that
bacon,
scored
Benny.
huge points. No, this is good. And I know we're wrapping up, but I think about this in terms of even just Benedict's school and just the other moms I'm connecting with. And what I see is a lot of really busy moms, a lot of working, a lot of stress, and not a lot of outlets to process things. And so I'm finding myself having conversations with amazing women who are going through really difficult times. And even just having a posture of listening and not rushing and asking with genuine concern for just moms in this community. I'm seeing that more and more, that that's a need that I feel like I want to help meet and hopefully can help bring some peace and shalom even just to Benedict's school and his community and to other women.
So good. Well, I feel like I'm kind of in that prayer season for myself. And part of it was for 3 years before I got hired at Bel Air about 6 months ago. I was working at an at-risk middle school, building a resilience program for free for the school and just getting to know the middle schoolers there. And they had a 30-kid fight on campus. I mean, just some really, really intense things, and getting to know kids and seeing like what's happening on the current public school field. And then it was in the middle of that I actually was talking to one of my friends who's a sub at that school, and there was 6th graders with a 1st grade reading level. And I don't know, that just like stuck. I was like, wow, like that just feels intense. And then even when I got hired here, a good friend reached out about just about this literacy project and started talking to me about literacy. And all of a sudden I was like, wait, this was never on my radar, but it was just like these kind of small things. So I'm actually just thinking about that a lot these days. And so my baby step right now has just I've been actually trying to shift our program in the kids department away from a heavy reliance on video teaching, and really switching it into storytelling and book reading. And part of it is the actual neurological science. I mean, Stanford, Harvard, Columbia, I can pull it all out. But I think I'm kind of in that like embryonic stage of really thinking about, I would love to, I'm full-time right now in ministry, but what does it look like to bring literacy projects and to really engage this conversation, especially with kids across LA? So nothing happening right now. It's kind of all under the surface, but just doing baby steps now in the program to kind of do that.
Well, hopefully some of our stories, some of the things that we mentioned here primes the pump for other people, as we're really trying to bring this home. We're really trying to make this real, not just talk about it in theory and theologize about Jeremiah 29:11, but actually say, what does God have for us as God's speaking to us in our city, in our time? How do we invest? How do we seek the welfare of our city? What would that look like for you? I invite you to consider that this week and take that step. I love that. Even if it's a baby step, take that baby step this week to make it real. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us today. We're so grateful. You can always download this, whatever podcast form you use. If you go to YouTube, you can see the sermon from last week. We'd love for you to just participate in the life of this community. So we invite you on Sundays, engage in this community. And we're going to do this again next week, right? Sermon sessions is a weekly thing. So we invite you again to join us next week. Thanks so much, and God bless. Have a great day.